Good afternoon, everyone. It's an immense pleasure to welcome you all for the today's webinar session on the topic Rise with SAP, Sizing and Infrastructure Planning. So I'm Mahesh and the host for today's webinar by Incresol. I will be assisting you in case you find any difficulties during this session. And also you can keep posting your queries in the chat, which will be discussed in the last 15 minutes of our Q&A session. Today we have a speaker, Mr. Nalini Kumar, Director and CTO of Incresol Software Services Private Limited. And the main key takeaways from this webinar would be the understanding of Hana sizing, S4 Hana systems landscape, and sizing of other SAP systems in the landscape, and Rise with SAP T-shirt model overview, and how to minimize the data footprint to optimize your infrastructure. So now I hand over to the mic, Mr. Nalini Kumar, to take this session forward. Mr. Nalini, over to you.
Sorry, I'm on mute. I didn't realize that. So good afternoon, everyone. Hope I'm audible to all. Mahesh, can you please acknowledge?
Yes, Nalini, you're audible and your screen is visible.
Okay, great. So I'm on the title screen of the presentation. So today it's like as part of our Rise with SAP webinar series. Today we are discussing about the infrastructure aspects of Rise with SAP or regular S4HANA as well. Okay. So we mixed both the things in the same webinar. So the key agenda of today's discussion, okay, it's a bit lengthy agenda today. It may take a little bit more time compared to the schedule, but let me see. I will try to cover as much as possible within the time. So sizing introduction is like if someone is new to the sizing, I would like to give a brief introduction like how the sizing takes place or what is the importance of sizing and what are the different approaches that we can use in sizing. And HANA database overview, just a glimpse of what is HANA database, why we need to discuss about it, or why we need to have a special sizing criteria for this one. That aspects we'll discuss here. S4HANA deployment and transition options. This is one quick slide because the sizing depends on the sizing approach depends on the deployment deployment option that we are going to choose along with the transition option. So considering that, we are going to discuss a bit about that. And we'll discuss about the T-shirt sizing. That's for the private cloud edition. SAP is using a T-shirt sizing based on different parameters. We'll discuss a bit about that. Okay. And transition steps in PCE, so you can understand the hardware requirements, any temporary hardware, and what are the different steps or the iterations that you can understand here. That will help you to clear out the important things to be considered while going for the Rise with SAP transition for the private cloud. And the last but not the least, it's the data footprint, because the bigger the data, bigger the resources required, and you need to pay more or you need to spend more for the infrastructure. So is there any way to reduce the data footprint? We'll see. It's a quick slide. So just I will give you the inputs like what all the areas you can look at and plan. Probably in future, I will plan a detailed webinar on this topic. And some references slide with the SAP notes and all I will share here. At the end, we'll go with the Q&A session where you can ask your queries, and no need to wait till the Q&A session. If you have any queries, please feel free to drop your queries in the chat box or in the Q&A section so that we'll address in the last 5 to 10 minutes. So I'll move on with the sizing introduction. So whenever the topic called sizing comes, there are the few questions that comes to the IT department head. It's like whether the new hardware or the upgraded infrastructure is going to support my new business requirements or not. The performance is up to the mark or not. For example, my payroll can run on the time or not, within the stipulated time or not after upgrading my hardware or moving to new hardware. Same thing like maybe like some of the typical SAP software you might be using that don't have any proper sizing reports provided in the sizing modeling is not provided by SAP, then how to do it, what to do it, that type of questions may arise. And if you are doing just a small upgrade, like a feature pack upgrade or the EHP upgrades, then is it really required to upgrade the hardware? Just you are upgrading technically the system. Or you are doing a big transition like from Oracle database to HANA database or the ECC to S4 HANA. It's a big change in the software and many layers. So consider that, how is the impact of it? It's like that so many questions will arise when we bringing a change in our technology stack in terms of the process or the add-ons or the version of the software. So these type of questions are going to be cleared out through this webinar. So the sizing, most of the people think that sizing is a small activity and it doesn't require much of the intelligence or the time, but which is very much wrong, because sizing itself is a big activity and we need to involve the right people and the right partners to do that job. It's more like converting your technology upgrade requirements or the business requirements into hardware requirements. If this goes wrong, whatever you are implementing on top of it may also go for a problematic or the may result in a stability issues or the scalability issues. So sizing itself should be treated as a project, in my opinion. I suggest many customers to do a quality time on sizing the infrastructure with the right partner. Few of the facts, just to give an idea. It's like we see that what are the majority of the load that happens on our systems are from the 20% of the transactions or the 20% of the processes that we are using in the system. That means they are the most heavy load generated processes. Okay, so whenever we are going for the sizing changes, we need to consider them well, so that the remaining things will go smooth. If we are able to cater this 20% well, remaining are okay, considering they are taking the 80% of the resources. And any successful sizing or the stable sizing is possible only when we have a software is should be scalable. Like if at all, it's like that there should be a scalable options enabled in the software or in the hardware as well. And also you consider the following APIs when you go with the sizing. So that's like one of the key parameter when you are assessing the sizing of an infrastructure is like the RAM, that is the main memory, and the compute power of the infrastructure, and the storage size. Any increase in the disk size is required, and disk IO that plays a crucial role. For example, your CPU and memory or everything is extraordinary, but whereas your disk IO is not supporting and disk IO is very poor, in that case, your performance, you don't get the performance outcome, because a lot of read and write happens on the disk, right? So the IO is the one which will play a critical role there. Same thing with the bandwidth of your front-end bandwidth. Like your users are accessing your servers from a front-end client or a web client. In that case, if the bandwidth is not good, even the servers are extraordinary, but the bandwidth is not up to the mark. In that case, the people feel that the performance is not up to the mark. It will impact the user experience again. So some of the risks, okay, so it's based on our experience and observations, okay, in the last few years or the last 5 to 10 years of journey. Okay, so there are some cases the sizing didn't go well because of different factors. Okay, so what are the different factors? One of the factors is the data that is received from the customer, or initial input or initial assessments, or maybe the predictions are not appropriate. Okay, so if the inputs are wrong, then obviously the outcome is going to be wrong, or the insufficient inputs are provided, then also it's going to create it's like a wrong sizing result. And if we go to start with the wrong sizing result, and maybe the servers or the systems may not cater the business requirements from day one, or they may fail in a shorter time. Same thing, assumptions plays a crucial role, because sometimes we don't have any inputs or information, might be from your IT team or from your business. Then we will go with some guesstimates or some sort of a temporary assumptions, and we thought of thinking that okay, at the end we'll look after them or we'll verify them. But if we forget to verify them while finalizing the sizing, and if they goes for these assumptions went wrong, then that also impact your sizing outcomes. So always, if we are doing on some assumptions, always we should benchmark them at some stage of the sizing project, and understand whether they're really supporting enough to give the final sizing or not, or what are the final sizing what we have decided is going to cover those assumptions or any changes required. Another key parameter is like your third-party coding or the customer coding, and also some special data constellations or the reporting requirements. These things also play a crucial role, because some bad programming or anything are there that also impact, because you feel that the system is upgraded, but still the improvements may not be seen. if you don't assess the custom coding requirements properly. So it's hard to predict, but at least from the existing system, if you're already using SAP system, then you can come to know the hard programs or the programs which are having issues. So you can verify them better, and any sizing consideration to be taken for them, we need to consider them as well. Otherwise, after the new sizing or the new infrastructure, also these programs may start failing, or the system may not be sufficient, the infrastructure may not be sufficient enough to cater the requirements. So these are the few risk areas when we go for the sizing project. And the important factors that we should consider are that influence the sizing of any infrastructure. Okay, so one, definitely the infrastructure resources like RAM, disk, network, etc., etc. And another key factor is like the version of your SAP software, like your ECC6 or ECC6 EHP8 or S4 Hana, S4 Hana 2022, 2020, or specific version of your SAP or SAP BW or SAP BW for Hana, etc. Same thing, like if you are using it for the OLTP load or OLAP load, okay, it's a transactional processing or an analytical processing. If it is analytical, that involves a heavy CPU load and all, so we need to consider that carefully. Based on that, also the sizing requirements may change. And also you are having some additional solutions or the heavy industry solution, for example, retail-oriented solutions or anything you are using, they're data intensive and the process intensive, the sizing parameters will change. Those factors definitely impact your sizing. And along with them, there are some other parameters also we should consider, okay, like your security settings. If there are heavy security settings are there, again, that impact the performance, so we need to consider them as well while doing the sizing. Interfaces, like you have so many integrations, more the integrations, that means the load will come on the system in the background or the RFC mode, that also impact the system sizing. So we need to understand how many interfaces are there, what are the frequency of them, and how exactly it is going to impact. And customizations, or whatever the customizations you have done in the system in terms of the standard process or the different business processes, that also we need to consider. For example, you are not using a purchase production planning module so far, and suppose you are planning to start off from this month or next month. Is it really required to change your hardware or increase your hardware? In my opinion, yes, because you are adding more people, maybe 50, 60 more people to the system, and also more data from the shop floor is going to flow through the system from the production module, right? So that definitely may impact your system sizing. So we need to reevaluate the sizing before it's like enabling or getting go live with those type of new process additions or the new add-on activations. And custom coding, okay, so as long as the code is written in the performance oriented optimized manner, that's okay. But even if the coding is not up to the mark, or it has some scalability issues, that also going to create a big difference while doing a sizing activity. And the volume of the processes or the volume of the documents or the transactions that are happening in the system, like whether it is happening uniformly, or is it going to happen all of a sudden, or suppose, for example, something like all invoice processing may happen from 2 to 4 p.m. So that 2 hours may be very crucial, and very high number of volume of documents might be getting processed at that time. Okay, in that case, or some background jobs are loading the data into the system. So, or some reporting, month-end reporting, for example, reports are getting accessed heavily during the month end or a month beginning, something like that. So those things also we should consider when we are doing the sizing. And data growth, it's very important, because the day one, whatever sizing we do, that looks good, but that should be sustained. That should be sustainable for the target period, like it's a 3 years or 5 years, what are the period we are targeting for that period. We should plan the data growth. Based on the data growth only we can plan the future sizing requirements. So the future growth also we should consider in terms of the data, in terms of the business, or the any plans, or any visible plans are there from the business side. We should consider both and decide the sizing of the current sizing. And user behavior, this more like how frequently is like the concurrent users at a time, at any given time. That's a peak loads basically. So the peak loads during month end or month, it's based on the timeline, or during a specific day or something like that. So those behavior we should understand, so that during those peak activity times, the system should not fail. Okay, so if we consider all happy going things, then during the peak, the sizing may fail, whatever the sizing we give. So we need to consider the peak observations of the peak loads as well, not only the average load. And also the bandwidth considerations, whether the users are going to access these servers through LAN or a WAN or the internet. So that also creates a lot of difference. Okay, so if it is through internet, we should ensure that there should be a proper bandwidth available, so that then only the user can get the right experience from the servers. So like that, we need to consider all those aspects. These are the few things we should consider when we are going for any sizing project or assessing any sizing requirement. Okay, the SAPs, I think most of you are already aware of it. Okay, the SAPs is a metric that is used by SAP to assess the CPU sizing predominantly. Okay, so most of the ECC sizing happens through SAPs concept. Nowadays, even in Hana, a little bit of SAPs will be used. Okay, so the SAPs full form is SAP Application Performance Standard. Okay, it's a metric derived based on your sales and distribution benchmarking, model benchmarking. It's like how many line items of a sales order will be processed in an hour. That will be considered as a SAP. Okay, so the standard is like 2000 fully processed order line items per hour. Fully processed in the sense from order to billing, whole process should complete, and not the order, only the header part. It's like number of line items within that order also should be considered as part of it. So that will be considered as 100 SAPs. 2000 fully ordered line items per hour will be called as 100 SAPs. So based on that, you can understand how much of the orders are getting processed in your system per hour in the peak hour. Okay, so we need to consider the peak hour, and based on that number, we can decide the number of SAPs. So based on these SAPs, we'll come to know the number of CPU cores required. For example, you can see that any 8-core processor CPU can approximately 15,000 SAPs can be catered. In case of the very big server or the commodity server, it's like the SAPs core versus SAPs relation will happen. So as a customer, as a support service partner, the job is to understand the number of SAPs required, and we need to pass on that information to the hardware vendor. So based on the make of the hardware, their SAPs will vary. For example, IBM, the SAPs count will be different. For Dell and HP, that will be different. Or for cloud, it will be a bit different, considering it's a virtualization environment. So considering that the SAPs, once we give it, then the infrastructure provider will assess the real hardware requirement in terms of compute power, and come up with the proposal of the hardware sizing. So different approaches in sizing. Okay, there are various ways that we follow. It's a case-to-case basis, or based on the nature of the sizing project. We follow some of these approaches. Okay, one is a guesstimate initial calculation method. That's a guesstimate based on the experience or the previous observations or the learnings. So based on that, we'll go with this approach. But that may not be good for the productive environment, but that's okay for your sandboxing or some development type of environment setup. Okay, but the initial calculation method may not be applicable for the production. We need to go for a better approach. Another option is like t-shirt sizing. This is the most predominantly in use nowadays. Okay, for Hana, any Hana landscape goes with the t-shirt sizing. It's like it's a fixed size. Suppose you say that small, extra small, large. If it is extra small, then it will have this much of RAM, this much of CPU, or up to this much of compute, etc. So that's a predefined pack. Okay, so based on our observations of the current system or the requirements of the target system, okay, this particular size fits to us. It's as well as like you are buying a t-shirt for you. Based on your size, you will buy a t-shirt, right? Same thing. Based on the observation of our requirement in terms of memory and compute, we feel that which size best fits to us, we'll go for that particular sizing option. So most of the Hana sizing go through the t-shirt sizing model. And formally, some of the storage calculations or memory calculations happen through formulae. It's like if the RAM is X, then what should be the disk size? Or if the RAM is X, what should be the number of cores? There should be some formulas involved for that to derive the number of cores or the number of GB of the storage, etc. Those can be derived from these formula-based approaches. Okay, so even in Hana, we follow up to some formula-based approaches. I will show you in the next slides. Sizing reports. Okay, this SAP already gave some of the pre-delivered reports in the systems to assess your sizing requirements, especially for Hana migrations. Okay, for S4HANA migrations, there are reports because there is a big change in the data storage architecture of Hana versus other databases. So they have given a reports. We can run those reports and understand what is the target sizing requirements if I change from this database to the Hana database or this particular stack to the other target stack. So there are free based on the application type or the database type. These reports are available. We can run those reports and get the ballpark numbers of the sizing or the near close numbers of the sizing. And questionnaire without formulas, these are nothing but it's some expert cases. These we follow this. Okay, the here it's like it's not possible to size based on some of the formula and all. We'll collect a lot of information from the business in various dimensions, and we'll apply our expert thoughts on that, and we'll derive the sizing. So there are some templates by SAP. Okay, or there are some proprietary templates from the partners as well. So we use that approach for the sizing. And quick quote sizer is the most common and oldest tool from SAP. Okay, this can be used to assess your sizing best fit when you are going for the net new implementations or the greenfield type of implementations. This quick sizer is going to help us a lot. And monitoring tools, SAP has a lot of monitoring transactions like ST06 or the performance observations or the different load analysis transactions are given within SAP. So we can use them and understand any sizing improvements are required in the live systems, or any you are planning any upgrades, or you are planning any add-on activations or any module implementations. In those cases, we use these monitoring tools and assess, okay, already the system is at the load of 60% or 70%. So if we add 100 more users, definitely we need to increase the resources. Like that, we'll come to know. These monitoring tools will help in that manner. So now I'm jumping into the HANA overview. So I think this is a very old point I'm again restating here. So it's like HANA is a high performance analytical appliance. Okay, so you need to understand the word analytic here. So that's the most important thing we need to remember, because it's not just a transactional database. It's an analytical database along with the transactional database capabilities together. So it definitely requires heavy resources. So, and HANA is an in-memory database. That means it loads the whole table data into the memory and process from the memory, not from the disk. Okay. Even the persistence layer exists, the all compute or the processing happens from your memory or the RAM. So that's why HANA is a super fast database. So, and also it has, it's like, as I said, it's a combination of analytical as well as transactional database together. So using in-memory computing power, it's taking up and it's giving the best results. So that's why it's very versatile. And considering in-memory, the RAM is the fastest medium of information processing compared to any disk or SSD or any other technology available. So considering that, it's the fastest database, one of the fastest database we can say. Multi-tenancy is another feature in HANA that also we need to consider when we are sizing. Okay, why I'm telling all these things is they are linked to sizing in a way or other way. So multi-tenancy is nothing but you can have one installation of HANA. In that, you can create multiple tenants. So like suppose you have a development database, you can host on the same HANA installation like a dev tenant, and quality database also on the same one as a quality tenant. Okay, so it's a multi-tenant database. So you can create multiple tenants in a single installation with the proper sizing of hardware, so that you can eliminate multiple virtual machines or the multiple physical machines. Okay, so that is also possible, so that you can optimize the resource cost as well using this multi-tenancy. So we need to understand which deployment approach you are going when we are assessing the sizing. Or do you want to host everything in a single machine with the more tenants, or in a multiple machines? That will help us to design the proper sizing. Scalability is like it's a distributed database. Okay, through a cluster network, we can it's like a multi-node. It's not only single node database. We can have the multiple nodes of HANA, and the load can be distributed across multiple nodes, and data can be distributed across multiple nodes. Okay, so without a shared storage. Okay, so that is also possible. So considering the data size, suppose if it's a huge size, terabytes of data is there, instead of putting the whole load on a single node, we can make it as a 10 nodes, 5 nodes, or 6 nodes. Like that, we can create a distributed database network. So through which we can get the best performance outcome or the best results. So based on the data size, we need to take a decision whether we need to plan multiple nodes deployment or single node deployment. Okay, and efficient because the data duplication compared to RDBMS is most of the RDBMS are row-oriented databases than a columnar databases, or most of the old databases I can say like Oracle, MS SQL, or SQL Server. All those are the row-based databases. So considering HANA is a columnar database, it has controlled almost it's like 100% of the data duplication is controlled here. That helped to considering the columnar storage. that help to reduce the data footprint. For example, if your Oracle database is of 1 terabyte, and when it comes to HANA, it can come close to 256 or 200 GB of storage in HANA. Like that, considering that, so there is a huge compression possibilities are there in the data. So the data footprint will definitely reduce, and that will help you to optimize your backup storages. So you can plan whatever the required storage of backup for Oracle is not necessary for HANA. The backup requirements might be less, or the log storage requirements might be less compared to other databases. So we need to consider that as well when we are going for HANA sizing. So sample is like it's around 3 to 8x data footprint reduction is there. Suppose if it's a 1 TB, we can reach up to 256 to 300 GB of the data size, or less than that as well, even less than that. It depends on the it's like non-textual data, like a multimedia data is more, then the compression ratio is less, like images or the videos or anything loaded in the database. In those cases, the compression will be less, but otherwise, in a regular transactional data point of view, you see up to 8x of compression or 8x of the footprint reduction. Okay, so coming to HANA sizing, okay, it's like what are the different KPIs we need to consider when we are doing the sizing? Okay, so as we discussed, these are the typical APIs like memory, CPU, disk size or disk IO, front end network load, etc. These are any common for many other systems as well. Okay, but coming to HANA, HANA is a bit different compared to the other databases because it's an in-memory database. So considering memory is the key criteria here, so we need to first consider the memory as the first parameter to be considered or assessed first. Based on the memory, remaining all parameters will fall. Okay, so that's why it is called memory is the one. It's like the memory is the leading driver for SAP HANA sizing. Okay, so the memory footprint required for the HANA database, we should consider first, and based on that, automatically we can derive the compute and other required things can be derived. And the next thing is like the analytical load on the system. Okay, you want to use a lot of analytical capabilities of this HANA database. So because HANA analytical computation consume a lot of CPU, or the parallel queries will be executed by the analytical processes that will impact the CPU load. So considering that, we need to assess the impact of the analytical load and plan the sizing accordingly. So in terms of the HANA sizing, we need to consider these three aspects. Okay, so what all the data will reside in the memory. So what is the size of memory we should plan? Okay, so the main driver we already discussed is the memory is the key parameter to be considered as the first point for HANA sizing. So the whole table data, okay, what are the table data you decide to be? It's like there are different options, but I will consider as the whole data is getting loaded here. Okay, so the table data whole, it is coming to your memory, and also there is a requirement of working memory. What is the working memory? If any query comes, any aggregation required, any calculations required, all those calculations on the table data. If you run a report, some set of queries will execute, right? So on the data already loaded to the memory. So we need an equivalent of table data, equivalent amount of memory required for working memory as well. Okay, that is all for the temporary calculations and the processings. Along with this, HANA is a software again, right? So it itself has its programs and cache or different operating system and all. We need to reserve some memory for those set of programs or the underlying software, right? So that memory also we need to consider. So it's like table data, working memory, and program memory. So all these three we need to consider when we are assessing the size of memory required. Okay, coming to the storage. In terms of directory storage, okay, a typical HANA database installation will involve these four directories: USR SAP, that's a typical library. Even 64 GB we have mentioned, but even lesser amount also would be good enough for this. Okay, around 32 GB also cater the need. And HANA data is the main data directory of the data volume of HANA database, where the persistent copy of the data will reside here. That means whatever the processing or the conclusion happened in the memory, that will be written back in parallel to the disk. Okay, so the HANA data is equal to the same size as RAM. For example, my memory requirement is 512 GB of RAM, for example. In that case, my data directory should be minimum of 512 GB. Okay, Similarly, log is nothing but it's like a whatever the transactions happening, the log files will generate in terms of the to recover the database in case of any crash or anything happens. Okay, so this also should be like same size as RAM or up to maximum of 512 GB, whichever is the lowest. Okay, if the RAM is coming, if it's a 256 GB RAM, then log directory size should be 256. If it is of if the log RAM is 1 TB, for example, 1 terabyte, in that case, no need to allocate Hana log as a 1 terabyte. You can go with the 512 GB of Hana log directory size. And Hana shared is for the software of Hana. It's like the EXEs or the executables of Hana will reside here. Okay. And I think so this is nothing but this should be equal to the size of RAM or maximum of 1 TB. In case of RAM is going beyond 1 TB, then we can limit the size of this directory at 1 TB. So all executables and some temporary storage will happen here. And backup, it's an optional directory. If you want to take any intermediate backups or anything other than the regular backup schedules, then this directory is going to be helpful. So this is a typical directory structure. Other than the OS, these are the applications like DB specific directories we use for Hana sizing. Okay, so sizing components. Okay, when we are doing the S4HANA landscape sizing, what are the components of what are the systems we need to consider? In a way, it's a component or a system. Let me take you through those points. One, database nodes. All database nodes we need to consider, like you have development database, quality database, production database, or a development quality in a single database with a multi-tenancy. Those things we should consider, how you are slicing your HANA database structure. And application servers, how many application servers you are planning, dedicated application server for dev, quality, and production, or dev quality in one application server, maybe production in a separate with the load balancing. So how many application servers are required? Okay, that we need to assess. And Fiori front-end server workload, because Fiori plays a crucial role here, because S4HANA it comes up with a Fiori as a front-end of the web-based interface, UI5 interface. So it itself creates a lot of load on your web engine of your S4HANA server. And as per SAP best practice, the Fiori component will be deployed within your S4HANA core only. That means it's not a separate VM. It will be part of your S4HANA core engine. That means it's the same engine it is getting deployed. So there's nothing, same application server what you are installing, in the same one, the Fiori, the gateway server also be installed or embedded in that. Embedded deployment will go. In that case, we need to understand what is the Fiori workload, number of users who are going to access, what are the peak number of sessions can happen, HTTP sessions. Based on that, we need to plan the resources required or to be added by considering the Fiori front end. Another important thing is like embedded analytics, because as I said, S4HANA is having inbuilt capability of analytics, and there is a engine called embedded analytics as part of S4HANA pre-delivered. And if we can activate this particular embedded analytics through some sort of a task list execution. So if we are activating embedded analytics, and how many it's like how many views we are activating, or how much is the load of analytical load on the system, we need to consider that. And what are the complex queries we are running on the system, we need to understand that. And based on that, we need to assess the compute requirements or at the same time memory requirements as well. Okay, if the more the embedded analytics load is there, then the compute resources to be increased. And web dispatcher, this is mainly for exposing your S4HANA landscape to the internet or over web. Okay, so the web dispatcher works as a reverse proxy here. So it's a pass-through proxy. It won't process anything, but it will scrutinize the request in terms of security aspects and in security and the rate limit aspects. It will pass through the backend servers. So it also depends on the volume of the traffic. Based on that, we need to assess the size of web dispatcher. HANA Cloud Connector, this is HCC. We call it we call it the HCC or SCC, or different names got changed in the last 5 years for this one. Initially, we used to call it HCI. Okay, so this one is to integrate your S4HANA system with the external systems, external SAP systems. Like you have a SuccessFactors outside. It's like SuccessFactors is the SAP controlled cloud. So there, SuccessFactors want to speak with your S4HANA system. There, we need to go for the HANA Cloud Connector for SuccessFactors. Or you are using Ariba, you are planning to use, or you already might be using Ariba. In that case, you want to integrate that to your S4HANA. Then again, HCC for Ariba component will come into the picture. Or you are using SAP Analytics Cloud for your analytics aspects. Then again, this HCC will come into the picture to enable connectivity between your cloud solution, SAP's cloud solution, with your S/4HANA solution. Other SAP NetWeaver systems, probably you might be using other systems like SAP PIPO or some other systems. All those needs to be considered, and what all them to be considered part of new landscape. And based on that, we need to assess the hardware requirements. The next important thing is the business continuity. Okay, business continuity is like, what are your plans for business continuity? Okay, you want to go with a single instance approach, or you want to go with a high availability approach, like you want to have a high availability node for your database, or you want to have a high availability aspects for your application servers. So based on your business continuity policies, your company's business continuity policies, we need to factor in these hardware or the infrastructure as well. And we need to respect these high availability requirements. In case of cloud, we need to go for the different zones or the different regions based on the necessity. And DR site, in case of disaster site requirements, then we need to have a different region based disaster site, DR site maintenance with all the required production environment, or what are the systems to be considered there. You need to decide based on that. That infrastructure should also come into the picture. And ideally, the high availability and disasters DR sites should be equivalent to the production sizing. That's the best practice recommended. Even though the utilization is not there, but it's better to maintain the equal sizing. And backup policies, this impacts your storage requirements. So based on your backup policies, we need to calculate how much of the storage space is required after going to S/4HANA. And temporary infrastructure needs, what does this mean? Okay, so you are converting from ECC to S/4HANA. So in this case, there might be a need of some temporary infrastructure to build your sandboxes. For example, you are in ECC 6 and you want to perform a trial run. So we can't run on the development or quality because this project is a 6 months or 3 to 6 months timeline taking project. So considering that if you disturb your development now, then all your development projects will go on a blocker or the stop mode. So to avoid those impacts, we always recommend that put one extra hardware or a small temporary hardware on a rental basis or whatever the possible manner, or you have some old hardware, you can use that. And you take a copy of your production and build a sandbox of the source system and perform on that. Until unless you really need to touch the mainline systems, till that time we need to perform all the activities on the sandbox node, so that we can eliminate the impact on the ongoing business or the ongoing development activities or the technology projects. And sandbox of target system, in some cases it's required, some cases it's not. Okay, suppose for example, we are unable to assess the exact sizing of the target landscape like your S/4HANA database or the system because of some ambiguities. So in this case, we strongly recommend that perform one test iteration on your source system on its temporary sandbox, so that you will come to know what is the compression ratio of HANA we are getting, what is the total result we are getting, how much infrastructure minimum level required. Those things will be very much clear. Then you can go for the actual final hardware ordering or the finalization of your cloud infrastructure. That is also one good way. So in those cases, we need to have a sandbox for target system. Migration servers or the jump servers. Suppose you are moving to the cloud, for example, any hyperscaler or the Rise with SAP. In those cases, what you need to do is you need to copy your backups in terms of system copy. Then it's a backup from the on-prem or the current hyperscaler to the target hyperscaler. So there should be some place we need to put it, and from there we need to run the SWPM or the some tools, right? So to run these tools and all will happen from this migration server. So we need to have enough storage to copy the backups or the it's like exports that are taken from the source system in the target environment. And backups and dump copy storage during the migration activity, it's a process of many steps. Okay, so considering that time to time we need to take multiple backups. At each stage conclusion, we need to take a backup. So it can take up to 5 to 6 backups we need to take it. So it's highly advisable to have a proper backup storage planned before the project itself, so that it's again temporary. So after the project, you can decommission those storages. So that would speed up your migration project and supports your technology partner to do their job in a better way. And okay, I'm moving on to the deployment and transition options. So this is like after Rise with SAP came up with a subscription model as a subscription model or as a service model, we call it. That is called S/4HANA Cloud. Okay, it is in 2 flavors, public cloud and private cloud. In public cloud, no much customizations possible. You need to use the system as it is. So if you're already a SAP customer, you want to carry the data and all, then public cloud is not HIS. It's only for greenfield or new implementations. This particular option is open. Okay, and who don't require much of the changes in the technology stack or in the system or the SAP pre-delivered processes. And on-premise, you already know, so you can deploy your hardware in your local data centers, but it's almost in the end of offering. It's like SAP is stopping this offering, particularly on S4 HANA conversions. So they are asking all the customers to go for the cloud, RISE with SAP, one of these two options. So considering current SAP customers, after my observation for the last few years, so most of the times, this like I observed that majority of customers are falling under private cloud criteria. Private cloud is the one where you will get your own dedicated instance, and your hardware will be used by you only. It won't be shared with anyone. Okay, the infrastructure is dedicated to you, and you can do all customizations or the whatever you do in the on-premise. Almost everything can be done on the private cloud. Okay, at the SAP stack level, but not at the OS level and other levels. Okay, you have control only on the SAP layer, not below that. And you can also opt for Azure, AWS, or the Google Cloud or SAP Cloud, whatever is you feel comfortable, you can choose that particular hyperscaler. For transition options, it's like when you want to convert your ECC to S4 HANA, there are three options available. One is the net new implementation, like you can discard your ECC system and want to go for a net new implementation, that is called a greenfield implementation, or system conversion, that is nothing but lift and shift. You can carry whole data from your ECC and convert it as the S4 HANA system, carrying the whole stuff there. That means you are not losing anything, not even a single record from the old system. And from there, you are going to enable the new features or the innovations that SAP is providing. There's a brownfield, we call it. And landscape transformation, if you have more than one SAP system in your landscape, you want to merge all this to a single system and convert as a one SAP ERP concept. In those cases, landscape transformation will come into the picture. This is also called a blue field. So why I'm talking about these transition options? Okay, because the sizing has an impact based on the transition options. Okay, so it's like in case of the new implementation, the sizing should not require to consider anything from the old system. Most of the things will start fresh, and you can go with a quick sizer. There's a tool provided by SAP. It's a web-based tool from SAP. With your S user, you can log in, and from there you need to fill the information of the parameters, and the sizing will come up in terms of Saps, and in terms of t-shirt sizing, it will show the data saying that, okay, you need to go for minimum this much sizing. After that, you can evaluate that information with the sizing guidelines provided by SAP, and some experts can participate in that and come up with the final sizing. And also you start with the zero data, only master data is the initial load and with the balances. So considering that, this sizing will go a smooth manner if you give the proper inputs to the quick sizer in terms of number of users and number of peak time users, concurrent users, and all that stuff, and also your data footprint growth plans and all. And coming to the brownfield sizing, here it's a bit tricky. We need to plan properly because we are carrying the whole data from the old environment like Oracle DB or the DB2 or the MS SQL or something like that. So we need to do a proper sizing so that the target environment is sustainable with the converted data or the new load that is going to be loaded to that particular environment. Here, SAP has given some sizing reports. As I said, whenever migration is there, SAP has given some sizing reports in terms of the source system to target release versus you can select that what is the target release you are going for, what is the current release version details, and after that, if you run that report, it will analyze all your data and come up with the final outcome saying that, okay, you need to plan for this much of sizing. And also the blue field sizing, this is nothing but blue field sizing is more, it's like for the landscape transformation, it doesn't have any specific tool. Here we need to use a quick sizer along with some expert assessments to be done, or we can go with the SAP consulting to give a proper sizing recommendations here. So I'm not talking about this much. I'm focusing more on the brownfield now, considering the limited time we are having. This point we already discussed. I'm skipping this slide. So in case of greenfield sizing, this point we already discussed. Okay. So we need to go to the quick sizer and we need to select the target versions. We need to give the SAPs count, how much SAPs count it is coming, how much disk IO is required, and what is the memory requirement it will come. And based on the guidelines, will come up with which t-shirt model best fits for us in terms of the SAPs and the memory that is proposed by the quick sizer. So if required, we can raise a ticket to SAP and take some opinion from SAP and conclude with the sizing and move further. Whereas this is how quick sizer looks like. Okay, so there are three parameters we consider while doing the sizing through quick sizer. Okay, I don't spend much time here. So one of the parameter or the criteria is that system business startup time. Okay, what does this mean? Okay, so suppose you shut down your SAP system or you shut down your SAP database, HANA database. So to restart the database, it takes a significant time because the whole data is on the disk that should be loaded to the RAM, right? That means the data should be read from the disk and loaded to the RAM. It will take some time to make it ready and available for the applications to consume. So considering that, so if the disk IO is bad, then the read operations will go slow and the system startup time also will take longer time. So it depends on one of the key parameter over here is like how much startup time you are okay to bear. For example, you say that 30 minutes is okay for me. In case of 30 minutes of loading time with the proper data size, it will ask with that data size for 30 minutes, it will suggest that what is the IO category required. So how much of IOPS category is XS or S, this type of suggestion it will give. Okay. In case if you want to have this 30 minutes to 10 minutes startup time, then the disk IO should be improved because the faster the data loaded to the RAM, then faster the DB will be ready for the consumption by the application. Okay, so considering that, then the category data IO category is changed to medium from the XS or S to medium. So considering this parameter is going to play a crucial role. So how much time you are okay to make the system to shut down or start up. Even shutdown also it will take time because the all log to be written to the database or some residual things to the data disk. So all those things will take time in shutting down, but shutting down is a little bit faster compared to the startup. So that's why considering startup time is a key criteria we'll consider. So the second thing is the lifetime. System lifetime is nothing but how many years you are planning this sizing to support. Like I want this sizing to support my business for next 3 years or next 5 years, next 7 years. So based on that, what are the timing you give it? 36 months it was given, that means 3 years. And what is the data growth per year? Okay, so data growth you can assess from the current system and you can marginally come to a number. Is it 10% growth, 20% growth per year or 5% per year? Based on that, it will suggest the required sizing. Because the data footprint is growing, then memory requirement also will grow. At the same time, disk requirement will also grow, right? Because the whole data will be loaded to the memory in HANA database. So considering that, the lifetime of the sizing to be considered plays a crucial role with the data growth percentage. So we need to give it properly. Then automatically the system will suggest, okay, this much of RAM required, this much of disk to be planned. In case of I'm saying that for 60 months, then it is showing some different number if you look at it here. So I'm moving on to the next point is a Fiori. Okay, so Fiori also plays a crucial role, as I said, because it's a web sessions or the content access from your S4HANA application only, right? So in Quick Sizer, there's a Fiori front-end server option is available. Through that, we need to, we can assess the load that can be generated from the Fiori. Okay, so that load we can have it. So we need to give the, in a peak time, what is the number of sessions, I think, so number of that sessions are going to be opened or users are going to logons going to act to the logons going to happen to the Fiori launchpad. So that is the key metric here. Suppose 100 users are going to log into Fiori on a peak time, or whole your business is running through Fiori, so it can be much bigger number. So based on that, we need to plan the sizing. The sizing it will recommend, and with that sizing we'll consider along with the application server sizing. This will go to the application server sizing. Same thing with the embedded analytics. Okay, so here it will say that how many, it's like to get a faster response time for your analytical reports or the queries. So we need to give the number of queries per hour we are going to run, slow queries, fast queries, what is the percentage of that one number of users are going to access. All those parameters it will ask. And based on those parameters, what are the parameters that you enter here? Okay, so the number of users who are going to access or the number of queries per hour. Based on this, it will suggest how much of the CPU must be planned for this particular particular implementation or particular hardware planning. So as I said, HANA sizing, your application sizing, and Fiori front-end sizing, and embedded analytics sizing to be considered along with your disk IO. All these 5 parameters are resulting into your final t-shirt size. Okay, same way in the Brownfield. Okay, as I said, there are some SAP notes are available. These notes explain that how you can implement that sizing program in your existing ECC system or in your existing S4HANA system. Okay, in both the cases it's possible. Okay, So in case of upgrade-wise sizing requirements or system conversion from ECC to S/4HANA-wise sizing requirements can be assessed from these programs. And also along with this, we strongly recommend before doing, when at any time you are doing a sizing, we strongly recommend that you need to perform a study on your current system to understand the behavior or the pattern of the load on your system. Okay, so one is the disk analysis, that is DB02. In case of upgrades, this will be helpful for you. Okay, like DB performance and tables and indexes. What is the data growth happening on your database on month or year on year? Which tables are consuming high size? All those can be assessed from here. And your CPU analysis, the load analysis will happen from here. ST06 is the T code or ST03, and these T codes will helpful for you to analyze your CPU analysis in terms of workload. And user behavior analysis can be from the ST80 T code, and memory analysis from SM04. So you can use these T codes and assess the loads that are coming on the system during the peak hours and take a note of it. And you can pass these inputs to your hardware vendor so that they can consider these things while sizing their new hardware or the new infrastructure. Okay, and ST80, ST03 will also give you the front-end network load in terms of the latencies or the how good the performance of your load from the front end. Okay, so as I said, your 80% of the load originates from your 20% of the processes. So you need to understand which all the processes are contributing to this 80% load, and what is the growth rate in terms of your largest tables, and also peak and peak CPU loads and peak memory utilizations. You need to consider all these things while going for the assessment for the upgrade, sizing assessment for the upgrade or conversions. Okay, the sizing reports. Okay, so as I said, this is the report name /SDF/HDB_sizing. If you are converting your ECC system to S/4HANA system, then you need to run this report in your source system. If it is not implemented, refer that note. Any specific dependencies to be implemented, you can execute them. And this report should be run on a production equivalent system or a production system, because the data footprint in the production and the development might be huge difference, right? So this report should be executed in the production to get a proper sizing recommendations. And this has some requirements. Okay, it requires minimum 620 basis pack, and also applicable for all other products like CRM, SCM, SRM, or the APO products as well. So not suitable for BW. BW has some different report. Okay, so it will assess all your data in terms of the how much compression we'll get it, how much optimization we can achieve it, and how much is the column store size, how much is the row store size coming, and how much is the secondary indexes. You might have been created a lot of indexes, so the secondary indexes can be dropped from the HANA, so you can see that how much of difference coming from the secondary indexes and total compression you are achieving. For example, something like this report looks like this. Okay, so it will say that for initial installation, this much of memory is required, and net data size on the disk is required this much, because 2x of the data size we need to plan for the memory. Okay, that's why it's showing 1688, for example, here. Estimated memory requirement after data cleanup, like if you perform the data cleanup or the obsolete data cleanup from the system, how much we can optimize. That optimization also it will show. This report also shows the top 10 contributing tables which are consuming the heavy space. Those also you can analyze, and you can run some sort of a archival or the deletion programs or the cleanup programs so that you can optimize the data footprint. Okay, I'm quickly jumping into the cloud sizing. Okay, the S/4HANA cloud, say that it's a public cloud or a private cloud. Okay, so I'm focusing more on the private cloud, considering most of our customers are falling under the private cloud criteria. So the private cloud measurement will happen on the FUE, full usage equivalent. Okay, it's similar to your user licenses in the ECC, like worker license, professional license, project user, etc. So this is a new metric derived. This new metric is linked to your sizing. That's why I'm stressing on this point. Okay, in the t-shirt model, when we go for the t-shirt model, this is also one of the parameter, like your t-shirt has a length, width, something like that. This FUE is also one of the parameter considered while coming up with the hardware sizing for the cloud. So this is nothing but full usage equivalent is nothing but it's as good as like a full power user, like a professional user license, we can say. And it has some conversion metrics. Okay, so it's like I will show you that in the next slide. Okay, so the advantage with this one is like the users, suppose you are having a worker user that can be equivalent to 5, it's like 5 worker users comes under one FUE measure. It's like that. So that if you can switch the users easily from one category to other category. But previously you don't have that flexibility. For example, you have worker user licenses, you can use them as a worker user only. You can't convert them as a professional. Or if you have professional, you cannot convert to some other criteria, right? So to give that flexibility to the companies or the customers, SAP came up with this new approach. They will measure on FUE, but you can create the user types in whatever manner you want it, but the metric should not exceed. That's the criteria. So for Rise with Hana SAP S4HANA Private Edition, the minimum FUEs are 60 FUEs you need to buy from SAP. This is as a minimum license we need to procure. So once subscribed, the FUE count always go up, cannot be dropped. That means you purchased 100 FUEs of license from SAP, but you cannot make it to 60 in future. It can always go up, cannot be brought down. So this is what I'm talking about. Rise with SAP has different user types. Okay, developer user, advanced user, core user, self-service user. So SAP has previously these type of users. All will be renamed to this one. So you can see this mapping criteria here. So one advanced user consumes one FUE metric, whereas one developer user consumes 2 FUE metrics. Okay, one core user, like 5 core users consume 1 FUE. That means if you have 5 core users in the system you create, like these all users can be converted as a 5 core users, or you can consider this category that will consume only 1 FUE of your budget. So self-service user, 30 self-service users comes under 1 FUE metric. So like this calculation will happen. So if you perform this type of calculation here, you have suppose 40 advanced users, so 40 FUE metrics will be considered, and core users you are 60, then it's a 5 is a conversion ratio, so 12 FUEs will be consumed here. Self-service 180, for example, then most of your users fall under self-service or core. Okay, so consider 6 FUEs will consume. That just with 6 FUEs you got 180 SAP user licenses. Okay, so this FUE count is becoming overall 60. So with 60 FUEs, you can accommodate 281 or more than 281 also if you switch these user counts. You can anytime you can change advanced to core, core to advanced, so that the FUEs will be free. Okay, so I would like to spend a couple of minutes on this slide. This is the most important slide. So S4HANA Cloud Private Edition system landscape. So how the system landscape will be when you go to the cloud in terms of private cloud, okay, private edition. So you will have your development environment, which is like your application server and HANA-DB. Okay, these are 2 VMs. Okay, and quality again, quality application and quality database, production application and production database. Okay, along with these S4HANA core systems, you need to have a web dispatcher. We already discussed this part. This is to expose your Fiori to the internet-based access or some other cloud-based access. Okay, cloud application to integrate with this Fiori. And SAP Cloud Connector to this is to integrate with your cloud solutions. Okay, like Ariba or SuccessFactors or anything. So here, your site, your employees will sit in this category, customer zone. They will be connected to this environment through VPN, or there are the express route options are available, or the direct connect options are available from Azure Express Route, AWS Direct Connect, or SSL based external access. Okay, the type of options are available. So your users can connect to SAP or Fiori using these VPN options. In case of Fiori, you can open to internet as well. Okay, with some restrictions. Same time, this is your primary data center site. Okay, and this is your DR site in the region 2. If you are going for DR, then DR site will come with the equivalent options of production. All will be set up here, like Web Dispatcher, Cloud Connector, and S4HANA, this app and DB. All will come here. So your primary data center will have one VPN tunnel between your it's like on-premise data center to the DR site, on-premise data center to the primary site. Both will be open. And also you have some applications hosted on your hyperscaler. Okay, you have some applications hosted in the web or some other business applications. You want to exchange they are integrated with SAP. So again, you can put a VNet peering here between this network and this network, so that these two networks can exchange the information with each other. Okay, so through firewall. Okay, and can integrate through your SAP applications. So this is the typical structure of your landscape, or the 2B structure of your landscape when you go for S4HANA Cloud. Okay, so I'll come to the T-shirt model. Okay, so I'm going to take 10 more minutes. Okay, so I'm sorry I'm taking more time considering the heavy content or the heavy information involved in this particular sizing topic. So I'm taking 10 to 15 minutes more. So it's like in the T-shirt model, it's like I said that FUE is one of the measure to decide the tire or the size of your particular infrastructure. Okay, so this XXS size, extra small, is the one of the size of your infrastructure or the SAP landscape size. Okay, it comes with 256 GB RAM of your production environment and 256 GB RAM of your quality environment, and 256 GB RAM of your development environment. In case of extra small, it's a 2-tier landscape. It's not a 3-tier, so there won't be any quality. Only 2 systems will be there. But in the next level, you get all 3 systems. Okay, and up to 2 application servers. So if anyone want 3 application servers, like 3-tier landscape, 3 means dev, quality, and production landscape, then XS is the best fit. Okay, extra small one. So most of our customers are falling under this XS, and they are buying extra RAM if at all required for if the data footprint is high. So you see it here, this excess size can accommodate or can cater up to 550 FUE. Okay. So if the FUEs are increasing, suppose if your FUE goes beyond this 550, then automatically you need to upgrade your infrastructure also to the small size. That means you need to change to the new t-shirt. Simple. When you are grown up, then you need to change the size, right? So same way, when the FUEs are getting increased, that means the number of users are growing and it is crossing the FUE limits, then you need to go to the next size. There's no other way. That's why FUE is one of the key metric in terms of understanding your t-shirt size or the hardware size. So cloud sizing will go in this manner. And you might get a question like, suppose my FUEs are 60 only, but my data footprint is 512 GB, or my data footprint is beyond that. So how can I, what is the option available? So for those type of cases, still you can go with the XS only, and you have the option to increase the RAM. So that is called as an add-on line item to your BOM. So that will come with like block size of 256. That means you can buy the RAM, you can increase the RAM by 256 GB multiples. So in case of XS, is a 256. You want to make it 512. You need to make buy at least one block of RAM. That's 256. Then with the XS only, with 550 FUE, you can still use in the same t-shirt model. You can continue with the 512 GB RAM. But if you need to go beyond 512, then you need to change yourself to the S category. So these RAM block additions are possible up to not reaching the next level. For example, here 512 GB is the production RAM size. And if I want to make it 768, by adding 1256, you can make it. If I want to make it 1024, I can make it by adding 2 blocks of additional RAM. But if I want to make it it's like above 1024, then I need to change it to the medium line. It's like that. So this is the additional line item available. So add-on, I can say. So along with the t-shirt, you can buy this add-on to accommodate your requirements. Same thing with your application servers. Okay. So how the application server sizing comes? In case of XS, the application comes with 64 GB RAM, 64 GB and 32 GB RAM for the development. Okay. So in this case, the XS, you want to go for 128 GB RAM for some necessity for the production, you can still go, because you can go up to 128 GB for any application. Or you want to go with additional application, that is the additional separate cost item, you can buy that extra one more application for the production with some additional cost. So like that you can, but you can buy in terms of the multiples of 32, 64 or 128. These 3 flavors only available. Okay, so I'm just skipping this one. For example, my FUEs are coming as 60 and I'm okay with the 2-tier architecture, 2-tier landscape, like dev and production only. Then I will start with XXS on the day 1. And what will happen if my FUEs grow in the span of next 5 years? So then you can see how it will work. Okay, here we have simulated like year 1, I have 60 FUEs. Year 2, I have 120 FUEs. It became year 3, my licenses became 180. Year 4, 360. Year 5, 600 FUEs, my user licenses. Okay, in this case, year 1 and 2, because up to 135 FUEs is accommodatable in the same one. If you want RAM, you can buy additional RAM and you can continue here. So I think in XXS you can't do anything, but in the XS you can buy the RAM. Okay, in the XXS you can't buy the RAM as well. Okay, it's a base package. So here till you reach year 1 and year 2, you continue in the XXS package. That is this sizing only will continue. Once when you reach the 180 or the 120 above or 135 above, immediately you need to go to the upgrade your infrastructure to the next sizing. That is XS. So XS will accommodate up to 550 FUE. So that means year 3 and 4 will come under XS category. So year 5, if it is growing to 600, that means it is crossing 550, then you need to change your tire or you change your sizing to small. So like this, as you increase the use of your users or the growth of your users on your SAP landscape, based on that, you need to change your tire of your SAP hardware as well as the infrastructure as well. So the contract will be revised from then and the new subscriptions will start. Okay, so I'll quickly skip this one. We already discussed this one. I'll spend a couple of minutes on this. Okay. So in case you are migrating from on-premise ECC to the cloud or any hyperscaler to the cloud, okay, or Rise with SAP Cloud. So in this case, you need to consider two important things. One additional temporary hardware for sandbox, better to plan it. That's my recommendation. Even SAP recommends it. And one migration server that SAP will provide complimentarily, no need of extra cost for this one. Okay, that is nothing but the content from here to here will go here and copy here, and this from here will run all the stuff. Okay, it will work like your desktop in the cloud. Okay, so from here you access all these systems. From here you run launches some. From here you store all the export files here, or the data, the dumps and everything will go here. Okay, so that will be like that. So in case of first iteration can be a sandbox iteration either from the production or from the development, whichever is the customer requirement. One iteration will do like this. Okay? And if you observe carefully here, okay, this is your on-premise. This first part is your on-premise, and the second part is your cloud. That means how the data will move from here to there. The only channel is through internet. Okay, that means why I'm trying to stress over here is like if your internet bandwidth is not good, then the data, the time of copying the dump or the export taken from here is going to take a huge time. Okay, so that should be carefully considered when we are planning your migration. Your internet bandwidth is going to play a crucial role. So we strongly recommend that at least a 500 Mbps to 1 Gbps line is recommended when you are going for the S/4HANA migration from on-premise to the SAP cloud. That would help you to minimize your downtime. Also, to faster movement of your data, whatever the data is getting exported from here, it will be copied to the migration server in no time. In a minimal time, we can go so that you can optimize your downtime as well. Okay, so how you calculate it, how much bandwidth you need it, that is again from the sizing report like /HDF HDB_sizing. That report we saw it right earlier. From the same sizing report, there is a formula. So I said that HANA sizing depends on formula as well, right? So this is the formula. It's purely on your column store size plus your hybrid LOBs. Hybrid LOBs are nothing but your most of the media content or the non-compressible content will come under this category. So 25% of the column store data, there is nothing but it's like a 7 TB is here, for example. 25% of it will come as a dump. Dump is nothing but when you run the sum tool or the DMO, it will convert the whole data from ECC or take the export of your ECC data, convert as a export files or the XML files it will generate. So all those XML files from your local, from the current environment to the cloud environment to be copied. That means they should be moved. So the copying should not take much time because they are in the TBs or the GBs. So we need to consider a decent time to copy from here to there. So it's like 25% of column store data plus hybrid LOBs. These two, if you sum it, that is going to be the dump estimation. Suppose it is coming as a 2 TB. Suppose if you want to copy a 2 TB of data from your on-premise to a internet-based system, so definitely how much bandwidth you need it. That reverse calculation you can do it. Suppose your bandwidth is 100 Mbps, then just you can imagine how much time does it take. You can convert this into the MBs by multiplying by 1024 and divide by this 100 Mbps. If you look at it, you will get the overall, it's big number, 10 hours or 20 hours it will come. So considering you need to have a very strong bandwidth, if it is in the Gbps, for example, 1 Gbps bandwidth is there, then it will take 2851 seconds to copy this data average. So 2851 or a little bit above that. So 2851 seconds is okay because by 60, if you do it, it will come close to 1 hour or odd. Okay. So 1.5 hour odd. So that is okay. But in case of your bandwidth is less than 20 Mbps, then it will go for a toss. So you need to wait a longer time to make your business to get access to your new landscape or the new system. At the same time, you are going for the system copy approach. Suppose you are already on HANA system, you are going this system to the cloud. In that case also, you need to consider the size of the backup in the disk. That is nothing but 8 TB or 9 TB is there. This whole size to be copied to the cloud. Or you need to go with the replication approach. There are different options available to optimize this. Okay, but it depends on your HANA version. So there are different projects you need to plan. Okay, so based on that, you can plan the network bandwidth required. So you need to plan a quality network bandwidth or the good bandwidth between these two networks so that you can minimize your downtimes. The second iteration is going to be your sandbox iteration. It's nothing but you can build a quality from your production copy. And third iteration is going to be preparation of the mock iteration, we can say, dry run. Again, that will come to your SAP S production system, and you can perform something here. You can see that everything is okay, the infrastructure is okay and all. Then if everything is okay, then you can plan for the go live main iteration. That means directly from your production system, you are moving here without any sandbox. Okay, once the migration is done, the temporary hardware of sandbox is disappeared, and also this migration server will also disappear. Okay, and the extra storage you kept for the backups and all will also be decommissioned. Okay, so here I'm showing how you can reduce your data footprint. Okay, there are different T codes where you can identify top 10, 20 tables. And based on the tables, most of the times it's the application logs or the office content S of cont1 table or cont2, or it's like S of constar tables or EDI ID tables, your IDOC tables. If you're using area IDOCs, then will be this size also going to be high. You can purge whole history of IDOCs. Okay, you can take a business decision, how much of data you need to retain as per audit point of view, and remaining can be purged or archived using these programs. And change documents, CD HDR, CD POS tables, they consume a huge size of your database. So better to archive them before going for S/4HANA migration so that your data footprint will be less. Like suppose after running all these purging or archivals, I can see that at least 30-40% of your reduction can happen. 30% is possible to reduce, or at least 20 to 30%. So that it will save a lot of your infrastructure cost. Work item archival, this is nothing but if you are using workflow engine in ECC, so there might be a lot of work items are in the tables which are not required anymore. They are already completed or in the error state, so you can archive them maybe older than 2 years or something like that. You can put a criteria and you can archive them. And clean up table logging. If any table loggings are activated, they can also be cleaned up by checking with your business team. If any audit restrictions are there, based on that, you can take a cautious call on this one. And delete old RFC data, and MDG pointers, change pointers can be archived, and also more details, what all can be archived, what all can be considered available in these two nodes. Okay, so you can dig more on more obsolete data cleanup activities from these two SAP nodes, and you can plan them. Even you can analyze in the quality system first. That's what my recommendation, so that you can see how much data footprint it is getting reduced. That will help you to plan the execution of the production. But be careful, all these obsolete data cleanup programs are performance hectic. So don't run during the regular business hours. You need to run these things during the non-peak hours or the holiday season. Okay, so even this is not helping you to reduce your footprint. Then the next option is like, is there any possibility to archive business data itself? Suppose you are having 15 years of data in your SAP system. If you feel that last 7 years only required and older than that not required, then you can plan archival of the data, suppose financial document archival or the material document archival or the sales document archival. So various areas are there. You can identify those and you can plan the archival of those particular areas and reassess the sizing. Okay, so that's all from my side for now. Okay, these are some of the SAP notes or the tools available. So you can explore more on this one. And also you can reach us for any queries. Okay, my email ID is here, kumar.n@incresol.com. And also we have more webinars on the way in coming weeks. Okay, so the next webinar on Rise with SAP is on digital access license. Okay, and after that we are also coming up with a webinar on the compatibility of pack components, because there are few components which are not released for S/4HANA and they are part of ECC but not available in S/4HANA. So what to do with them, or what is the strategy you need to follow? Those topics are going to be discussed here. So I would like to open for Q&A session now, and thank you all for your time. And I'm very sorry for the delay happened. Mahesh, over to you for Q&A session.
Thank you, Nandi. Thank you for the wonderful session. And we have a few questions.
Yeah, please.
The question is it required for Solomon and SAP router in Rise with SAP?
Solomon is your call, but in case of Rise with SAP, Solomon, it's not required because you can depend on ALM. Application Lifecycle Manager is available. So that is going to play as good as like a Solomon. Okay. So that will play the role of your project management, that will play the role of your change management. All that can be handled from there. Okay. But if you want some native features of Solman to be utilized, or you are already using it in the on-premise systems, then you can port that system to cloud, no issues. But otherwise, I think if you are just using Solman for the EWA purpose, then Solman can be left out. You can go with you can depend on just ALM configuration. That anyhow SAP is going to take care of it, because SAP will take care of your infrastructure and the application performance observations, right? The basic basis monitoring will take place from SAP. So they will come up with their reports or automated insights you will get from SAP Market, SAP Launchpad, or the SAP Me. Hope I answered the query.
Okay. There's another question only. And who will take care in SAP's upgrade in RISE?
Sorry, Mahesh, can you please come again with that question?
Who will take care any SPS upgrades in RISE? SPS upgrade.
Got your point. Okay, so if I understand correctly, if I am on FPS 0 or the initial shipment pack, and I want to go for FPS 01, 2022 FPS 01 or FPS 02, so any feature packs are getting released. Who is going to do the upgrades of these FPS? Okay, so that's like in case of RISE, there are two flavors, as I already discussed: is the public cloud and the private cloud. In case of public cloud, SAP will do it automatically on a quarterly basis. Okay, that means your system will be upgraded on quarterly basis without any of your interference. Whereas in case of private cloud, it's a contractual item, whether the upgrade to be done by SAP or you want to do with your partner. Okay, anyone can do it, but with an additional cost. If you want to go with SAP, that's not part of the default package, and you need to add one extra line item for the upgrades, one upgrade per year or one upgrade for 2 years. Like that, you need to add one cost item in your bill of material. That will take care. Suppose if you opt for that, then SAP will do the FPS upgrades by taking consent from you periodically. Whereas if you don't opt for it, then you have an option to do that upgrade from your service partner or your AMC partner or the application partner. Hope I answered the query.
Okay. And what about the support patches and kernel?
I didn't get you, Mahesh. Can you please come again?
What about the support patches and kernel?
Kernel upgrades will be taken care by SAP. Okay, so that's part of SAP. Kernel upgrades are complementary as part of the service scope.
Okay, okay. There's another question. Is it required AMC for OS and SAP applications after moving to RISE?
Like for OS, no requirement of support, because the OS will be taken care by SAP. It will come under the SAP's RISE contract. Okay, so for OS not required, for your hyperscaler not required, and regular SAP AMCs and everything will go in the same contract. But for your within application layer, that is nothing but your business client, you want to implement something, or you want to write a web code, or you want to change something, or your user got stuck somewhere, you want to get support in rectifying that error, or correcting some custom codes or the configuration changes, all those to be taken by your support partner, not by SAP. SAP don't do that. SAP's job end at 000 client. There itself they will stop. They don't get into your business client. Any activities on that should be taken care by you. You or your support partner.
Okay. There's another question. Does RISE manage third-party applications?
No, they don't manage. Their scope is limited to their landscape. What are the landscape committed from SAP side? If you have something third party, so like third party, if I understand correctly, you have some legacy application you want to put it to the RISE only. Those cases, you will have your own hyperscaler account, and you will have the bridging between that that particular hyperscaler account to this particular account through VNet or the some other mechanism or the VPN tunnel. Okay, so that third party application maintenance will be part of yours. It's not the responsibility of SAP.
Okay, great. Nali, just a minute. We have one of the participant wanted to have some question. 1 minute.
Yes, sure. I'm there.
So what about the audit trials?
Means audit trials will be taken care by SAP. Okay, that will be maintained in the system. Okay, so that all will be accessible to you also, right? All the audit trails and security aspects will be available. But the question is very minimal, so I'm unable to understand. If there is any specific point about audit trail, if they elaborate more, I can answer better.
Okay. So we'll go for another question. What is the approximate cost for user license?
That's a tricky question, Mahesh. So you know SAP, right? So that's not possible to answer from our side. The right person to address it is SAP account manager. But just from my experience, I can say that it's a bundled package, so you can't evaluate the exact price for one user or one FUE how much it is. Okay, that's hard to break down that. Okay, it's a bundled package. As a single line item, you will get it.
There's another question only. Is there any limitation for these developments?
In case of public cloud, you can't do anything. Any G or any S, even in public cloud, you don't have SPRO also. So you don't have SAP GUI in public cloud. You need to do everything from the Fiori and Fiori configuration cockpit. That only you can do it. Any Z developments required in the extension framework of BTP, you need to do it. So in the BTP platform, you need to do. In case of private cloud, it's as well as like your on-prem system flexibility point of view. So there you can have your G developments in the private cloud, but in the public cloud, definitely no. It's a clean core. Clean core means SAP code or additions won't happen within that engine because it's a shared engine for all. You are just one company code in that system. That means the SAP instance is shared by many. I think I answered the query.
So Nali, I see that we don't have any other questions now, and few of our participants were requesting for to sharing this PPT. So we can share this PPT.
Mahesh,
Yeah.
no issues. Okay, you can download it and share across to the participants whoever want it.
Yeah.
Also share the recorded session to them if at all they want. They can go through it. And
Sure.
if at all someone want to speak with me, so I think we can plan one-on-one call because considering we are running short of the time, so I don't want to make others to wait here. So you can arrange a separate call for that, Mahesh.
Yeah. Nali, there's a one question again.
Okay.
DR and Hana is also hosted, managed by
Yes.
SAP.
Yeah, in Rise with SAP, DR is not default in the package. It's an optional item. So you get additional cost, you can go for that. But the condition is like the DR is equivalent to your production sizing. For example, you have a 512 GB of RAM-oriented HANA node and 64 GB RAM-oriented application node and 32 GB RAM-oriented web dispatcher and 32 GB RAM-oriented cloud connector. For example, these four are there. All these four with the equal size will go to the DR site. So it's like you can't reduce the size. With the equal copy only you can go with the DR. That's a condition. But it's an additional cost item. So if you want to opt it, they can add it in the bundle package.
There's another question. Maintenance of audit trial statutory requirement.
Yeah, it's requirement. Yeah, statutory requirement. When you are moving from the on-prem to the cloud, the existing audit trials will be moved there and we'll hand over to the SAP team and they are going to move on to the new system also, right? So they will be available. It's a statutory requirement. We need to maintain them.
There's another question. For a mid-sized company with 50 users, what will be the cost for migration from S4HANA to RISE?
It's like the cost, it's hard to derive. Okay, so as I said, the 60 FU is the minimum to buy, even though you are 50 or you are 10 user or a 300 user. If you are fitting under 60 FUE, that's okay. Or if you are feeling 60 FUE is so high, then also you need to go with 60 FUE license only. You cannot go below that. And the sizing will go as like either XXS. In case of 50 users, I can assume that the data footprint is very small. Okay, or maybe less than 380 GB or 256 GB in the current database. Okay, the backup size or the size. In that case, it can come under the XXX category or the XS category. So minimum 256 GB RAM system they need to activate. If they want to go for the two system landscape like day one production, then XXS category will be sufficient. Or in case they want to go for the three system landscape, they should opt for the XS, extra small category of the RISE option in the T-shirt model. Okay, but the cost point of view, it's a bundled, I said, it is 60 FUE and the infrastructure of excess T-shirt model and the S4 conversion of the license, all these will be bundled by SAP and they will come up with a cost. But I cannot disclose those costs in this call in a public manner. But the SAP account manager can reveal it better or can discuss better, because the size, this assessment, the costing assessment should be done by SAP along with the partner like us.
Great. Nali, there's another question. What will be the savings when moved from existing ECC to RISE on SAP?
Savings, it's like there are various ways we can measure it. Okay, it depends on your size, it depends on your data footprint, it depends on how much you are spending on the current data center, how much team you are spending there, and also the number of users you are having. For example, I'm a 3000 user company. Let's take it as an example. Okay, it's like 3000 users. Probably out of that, the majority are in the worker license model. Okay, and maybe and few are, it's like 30% on the professional and 40% on the 40% on the worker, and remaining 30% probably on the self-service, probably, or maybe more. Okay, like that. So if we have the distribution, then we will come to know that how much saving we are getting, because the good advantage is like the self-service user in the RISE, like one FUE is covering your 30 users. Okay, so that means the self-service user covers your shop floor operations and some of your supply chain operations, okay, and your plant maintenance operations. Okay, these three operations, that means almost your 70% of the business, I think, can be covered through these self-service users, or at least 60% in my opinion. Okay, so that will be covered. That means you are saving a lot. That means all worker users will be converted to the self-service, most of them, and some maybe to the core, because the sales department should go for core or advanced. Okay, so they will go to the core, and finance department should go for the advanced user license. Okay, category of S4 RISE with SAP. So there you can see that you are maybe spending hardly 90 FUE or the 100 FUE or 1000 FUE, it's like 150 FUE to cater these 3000 users once they are converted to the self-service users, because 1:30 is the ratio, right? So suppose if you are having 2000 worker users, 2000 by 30, how much it is coming approximately? It's like close to 70, I can say. So 70 FUE for those 2000 users, that's straight away gone. And remaining 1000 users, we need to evaluate and how much it is coming. Maybe 400 FUE or 500 FUE it will come, and it will definitely help you to reduce your user license cost, overall cost happening during this transition. Okay, so that's how it is. And also how much you are spending for your infra vendors, or how much you are spending for the AMCs of your operating system, and different categories are there. If we come up with all those costs, then we can come to know. But it's like, it's not necessary that every equation can be a profitable. Okay, so it depends on various parameters. If you are in the size is decent, and then you're having so much of spend on the in the on-prem, then definitely the ROI can be seen, or the TCO can be optimized. And also TCO cannot be only today's cost. Okay, you need to consider your future integrations of the future business expansions as well. Okay, for example, you want to activate integration with your, for example, you want to start using Ariba. So as part of RISE, there is a business network complementary package is available. There are free credits of BTP are available. So there, if you develop something in a small legacy application or some application, you can deploy in BTP and you start integrate with SAP without an additional cost. Okay, so in no time, that means you are saving a lot of time. That's go to market is faster in RISE, I can say. If you want to integrate Ariba, there is a ready-made connectors available. So just in a span of a week or less than that, or it's just to communicate to SAP to enable that SEC with Ariba, and that's all. Then after that, you can start using Ariba integrated with your SAP system. Okay, like that. So there is ready-made integrations are possible in RISE compared to on-premise. All those costs can also be saved. It purely depends on your business strategy or the business innovation strategy for the next few years. That will also help you to understand the business ROI in terms of the spend you are going to do for the RISE with SAP. And also the damage due to downtimes. Okay, if your system is on-premise having frequent downtimes and it's not manageable, and that also creates a lot of hampering to the business, right, which is a loss. So that can be controlled well in a RISE, because SAP is giving 99.7% SLA for the production systems. So that will also help you to get better edge. So we need to consider so many factors, Mahesh. So then only we'll come to know what exactly the real TCO they are getting, or advantage they are getting.
Nali, there's another question. Is BIBO is part with RISE with SAP?
No, PIPO is not there. If you are having some PIPO system as a NetWeaver stack, that can be ported to the Rise with SAP as a tenant license, okay, as a add-on license to the Rise with SAP landscape. That is possible. Okay, but that's not there in the ready-mades, like in the default package. But SAP recommends to use CPI, considering you are already in the cloud. So why to go with the PIPO? If you're already having a lot of investment done on PIPO, then it's okay. But otherwise, the recommendation is go with CPI or the BTP integration. BTP has a very good integration suite, right? So CPI is part of it. So we can use CPI. CPI is a modern version of PIPO, or it will complement all the most of the features of PIPO. So we can go with that. But that's the additional cost license item.
Nalini, same question. What about BIBO?
So BIBO also available in Rise. It's like it's not complementary again. BIBO is not complementary here. So you need to, if you are already having a BIBO installation in the local, you can port it to the Rise with SAP. Okay, that's possible. If it is a BW system, then I think you need to go for BW for Hana in Rise with SAP. In case of BO, you can take that system to as is to the Rise with SAP. But they are separate cost items. They're not part of the default package.
What is CPI? Is a question.
What is
CPI?
PPI? Is it
CPI?
CPI is a cloud platform integrator. Full form of this one is a CPI is a cloud platform integrator. It is a cloud version of PI you can consider in terms of the technology aspect. There you can do the interfaces. There you can do it's a middleware, I can say, cloud-based middleware of SAP.
Nali, there's another question. Does RISE support or compliance of SAP CSV?
Can you please come again?
Does RISE support or compliance of SAP CSV?
Okay. I think it's a validation process you are talking about, if I understand correctly. Is it? Yeah, it's like if it is a specific compliance or the validation process or the qualification process you are talking about, then in this case, SAP has a separate offering for that. That's called a GXP. Okay, there's a GMP type of validation or anything like that. Those offerings can be activated and you can get complied with that.
Nali, there's another question. Do RISE come with HR along with other modules or separate?
No. I think HR module, there are limited features are going to come. That is like time management or it's like org management. These are few features are available. They will come by default. And you can opt for, if you want to go for the payroll engine, that's a separate cost item. You need to opt for it. Then they will activate payroll option in the RISE. Okay. That can be doable. But if you want to go for the core HR features, they are recommending to go with the success factors. I think you asked some more part in that one, or other than HR, anything else you asked in your query?
Actually works. Do RISE come with HR along with other modules or separate?
So it's like HR. It's like if it's like as I said, in the HR org management and the time management will come as part of that. Okay, time booking or the time system will come as part of the RISE core package. It's inbuilt. Okay, payroll, I need to confirm that once, but as per my knowledge, it will come along with the RISE only. We can as an additional line item that will be part of the S/4HANA core engine. It will come, but I need to confirm that part. Okay. But if you want to go with some HCM system, then you need to go as an SAP NetWeaver package, like you are using SAP HR module in full-fledged manner. Then that part you need to go as a compatibility mode, like in a sidecar approach. Okay, like then you need to go for a separate VM for the your HR system in the regular SAP NetWeaver package, and you need to go for that. That's a separate licensing as well as separate hardware cost will come. I think hope I answered the query, right?
So, Nale, I think we are good to go now. So, because already we are running short of time.
Yeah. Okay. So if there are no other queries, we'll wind up here. And if there are more queries, okay, feel free to drop an email on kumar.an@incresol.com. We are more than happy to answer as much as possible from our side. Okay, so hope I clarified most of your queries, and if there are any gaps, I'll try to come back. Okay, so regarding payroll, I will check and come back on the topic. And also we have upcoming webinars next week and next to next week. One is on the regional access license concepts. Another one is on the compatibility pack. This is like HR one, for example, you can take it as part of this one. Okay, which for which S4 don't have a inbuilt module or the option available there. All these compatibility packs are going to end in some time. So what is the future of it? So that we are going to discuss in the 16th of August webinar. Hope 16th of August is a working day. So we are going to discuss on that. So that's all from my side for today, and hope you enjoyed my session and hope it is informative to all of you and you got some good takeaways. Thank you all for joining the webinar, and I would like to see you all in the next webinar. Have a nice evening.
Thank you, Narni. Thank you all.
Yeah, Mahesh, you were trying to say something?
Nothing, and I was just thanking everyone. Thank you all.